All right, we're live. So welcome to this week's edition of the 10x Business Owners Mastermind Call. My name is John Tyron. I am your co-host. Alan Reeves is our other co-host here. We're both business people. We've been in business. Alan, you're going on, what, 25 years this next year?
In February, yep.
Yeah. Oh, February. Okay. I'm completing October 28th of this year, 32 years. So over the last 32 years, I built 7 different companies, getting ready to launch another one next week. And it's fun. It's fun building the business. It is a big pain in the butt time to time. It's a lot of work. I remember back in 2015, somebody said, you know, I was burnt out on training salespeople, and somebody said, you should coach business owners. I said, absolutely not. It's a lot of work building a company. And then they said to me, hey, no, you just tell them what to do. I'm like, oh, I could do that. And so I've been working with Alan now for a little over 6 years. And I think what was it, about a year ago, we decided both of us are going after the exact same client. Now, I'm going to share this story with you for a very specific purpose because it will apply to you in your industry. So Alan and I are literally going after the exact same client. But we need to both be able to add value to our clients. None of our clients want to hear about our product or service. What they want to hear about is the things that affect them. And so we got together and we said, okay, how can we add the most value to a small business owner anywhere in the country, because both of us can do business in the country. We said, let's just do a free mastermind call every week. And over time, it's evolved into what it is today. So the first Thursday of the month, we talk about sales. What I find, and Alan can agree with this because you got hundreds of small business owner clients, they ultimately get to the point where they got to learn how to sell. And if they can't master this skill, they're not going to grow. At some point, you run out of friends, relatives, past clients that you stole from your previous employer, and you're now left with, okay, I have a lead. They're interested in my product or service, and I walk them through a process, and I'm sick and tired of saying, oh, you want to think about it? Go ahead. I'll follow up with you. And you don't close, right? And so learning that skill is very important. Then the second Thursday, we talk about marketing. The third Thursday, we talk about operations and systems. And finally, this week, we talk about administration and finance. Those are the 4 key pillars of business. We have an expert here today, Elizaveta. I call her Lisa because that's what she's asked me to call her. Portnova, she is my personal bookkeeper. They do my taxes. I refer all of my clients to them, and she does an amazing job. In fact, she was the first bookkeeper to actually come into my life, and I said, okay, here's my bookkeeping, here's my QuickBooks, here's all my stuff. And she said, okay, well, send me these statements, send me these statements, send me these statements. And then a week went by. Then 2 weeks went by. Then 3 weeks went by. And then finally she said, you know what? Just give me your logins, dude. I will get it done, and I will put it into QuickBooks for you. And she got it done. Now, I know, yeah, she's laughing because I wanted a bookkeeper like that because I'm busy, man. The last thing on my mind is bookkeeping, tax, finance. I understand it enough to consult any business owner, but I needed somebody that had the wherewithal to say, hey, I know you're busy as a business owner, bookkeeping, tax, it's not your forte. Get out of my way and give me access and just let me take care of it. And so when she said that, here we are 2 weeks later, next thing you know, it's all done. She's like, okay, well, we need to get together and do your taxes. I'm like, it's all done? Yeah. And so I wanted to have her on this call for this specific topic of administration and finance. Our other guest speaker, Allison Navarez-Pyron, who happens to be my wife, awesome administrative person, woke up this morning with just incredible pain and literally had to go to the doctor's today. She's down for the count. So me and Alan, just get your administrative hat on because we're going to talk about the administrative side of business. And we're literally going to mastermind today with all these business owners on what your secrets are on the administrative side of the business. All those little things like email, filing, appointment setting, customer service, all those things that none of us as business owners, we all have to do all that in the beginning, but at some point we want to have somebody else do it. So what we're going to talk about is what Alan does in his business, what I do in my business, and then we're going to, glean from their other business owners here. And by the time we're done today, the biggest thing that me and Alan want you to walk away with is something that you can take action on in your business today. For those of you that are brand new, we don't sell here. Okay, so there's not going to be a pitch at the end, okay, which is good. It's just great content. Only thing that we would ask from you, if you got a lot of value of this, go on to our YouTube channel, or go on to the recording, share it with the people that you know. Go on my LinkedIn profile, Alan's profile, and give us a review. That's how you can help us. Is we are here. We've already been successful in business. Right? We've already been there, done that. And what we're looking for is to be able to give back and help everybody that's a small business owner, whether you're in the startup mode or whether you're at $1 million or $2 million, to be able to eliminate the frustrations of owning that business and help you achieve results faster. So that's the reason this call exists. So without further ado, I want to bring on Lisa. So Lisa, let me ask you, you're unmuted, okay? So tell us about your company and your expertise and the fact that you own multiple businesses yourself. So you're not just coming from a place of being a bookkeeper and tax. I don't think most people understand that. You actually own businesses and run them.
Yes, I do. So let me tell you guys a little bit more about myself. So my name is Lisa. I work with my partner Garrick here at South Placer Tax and Bookkeeping. We do, like I mentioned before, taxes, all kinds of taxes, starting with business taxes, ending with estate planning and stuff like that. I also specialize in opening LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, forming those entities. And also we do bookkeeping, all kinds of bookkeeping, starting for big businesses, ending with just startups. And me, myself, personally, I've been doing bookkeeping for about 45 years, been doing taxes for a couple of years. And I also do own another 2 businesses, which have nothing to do with finance. And those are 2 auto parts stores. So one is just completely drop shipping, and then the other one is German cars.
Wow, that's so awesome. And now, how did you get involved in those 2 types of businesses?
I always had passion for cars, but then my husband does that as well. So I took a couple of his and then built his, and then I decided to start building website for it, build my own website, and I just love it. It's just something to take my mind off.
And so, and you're also, I remember correctly, you're going after some certain certifications over the next couple of years.
Yes, I am. So I'm probably going to end up getting my CPA license. Not too sure yet on that, but also I'm going to get my 65, 66 series for financial planning as well.
Now you broke up. We lost volume on that. Was that last part? Anybody hear her, or is it me? Lost complete volume. You mute and unmute yourself. Fix it. Right?
I can hear you.
Oh, we can hear you now.
I can.
Okay.
I hear you from the office.
You hear us. I know we actually are at least an office from them as well. Oh, are you just going to come join me here? Okay, let's do that. Let's rock and roll. Hold on just a second, everybody. Let's switch to computer audio here. Why not?
Breaking the 3rd wall.
Okay, this is a first. Get rid of this virtual background.
Here we are.
There you are. All right, we get to do a call in the same office. Can everybody hear us?
Perfectly.
Okay. All right. So so I want to have a conversation. And Alan, feel free to jump in here as often as you want. So with small business owners, there has been, right now, the stat I heard last week, 35 million current small business owners in the United States. Only 5% of them achieve $1 million or more in revenue. Less than 5% ever achieve $10 million. But there's a ton of small business owners that just started over this last year. And a lot of them are now starting to come to the place where they have to deal with bookkeeping. They have to deal with tax. They have to deal with the accounting aspect of their business. And they're like I've had to refer to you a bunch of clients recently. They're like, we don't understand how to do this. And so what would you say to a small business owner? How can they get started in their bookkeeping? How should they get set up in that stuff? How important is that really?
What I've learned in the past years that you need a bookkeeper, no matter what. If you want to be successful, you need it. It's a necessity. Just because not necessarily you need it monthly, not necessarily you need it quarterly. You might need it only once a year, right? But you still need it in order to get your taxes right, save your money, stuff like that. So I definitely would recommend for brand new companies or brand new business owners, right, obviously, to at least get in touch with a bookkeeper like me, for example. Go over your business and see what your goals are, what would you like to do with it, and how I can help you, basically. Because I can give you an advice, which it's not gonna cost you anything. And I'll just tell you, okay, so maybe you need to save this receipts, or maybe you should increase your sales or like increase your price or stuff like that. That will help you. And so that way you'll be ready and rock and roll.
Okay. And so what are the basic file structure for record keeping?
So normally I would suggest for everybody to have QuickBooks. That would be that's the software that a lot of you most likely know about. When you just start with the business, I probably wouldn't even recommend starting it right away. You probably should wait, I would say, like half a year before you even start it, because you never know how many transactions you'll have. But at least start having a spreadsheet. Start having like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, where you can keep the record of all your receipts. Grab a binder, keep all your receipts in there. Let's say for all your expenses, let's say your meals, your gas, your supplies and stuff like that, depending on everybody's, different businesses. Like one is for web designing, that would be like, software stuff. For real estate, that would be, all the costs like mileage, gas and stuff like that, and then all your advertising. And basically that's what you would need to do in order. And then I would say after half a year, start setting up your QuickBooks, because then you have a monthly subscription, but then that way you'll have something to start it off with, versus just having it and just, burning extra money. Okay.
So one of the biggest challenges, and feel free to jump in here, Alan, you probably experienced this when you first started a business. When I first started my own business, where I was responsible, like the first 2 businesses that I started, I wasn't responsible for the accounting, the finance, any of that stuff. Like that was all great. I was an expert at marketing and sales. But then in 2006, I started a company where I was 100% owner, and they started talking about debits and credits and all this other stuff. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So can you give us like a real quick crash course? What is a debit and what is a credit?
Well, obviously when you receive money is you're like crediting your account. When you spend money, you're debiting your account. So basically all your sales are going to be your credits and all the expenses are going to be your debits.
Okay.
So basically your gas is your debit.
Sure. And so when you're reading, and a lot of small business owners don't understand this, is you might have a profit and loss statement, And on the profit and loss statement, man, you made all this money, you had all this cost of goods sold, you had this big gross profit, you had all these expenses, and oh my God, honey, look at this net profit. We're rich. You know, is that really true?
No, a
It's
lot
not,
of
huh?
times your books may not be right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, let's say what happens, what I've seen mostly recently due to COVID, a lot of people applied for SBA loans.
Mhm.
And they got those loans and they were recorded as an income, even though it's not necessarily your income. It goes into your balance sheet, not your profit and loss. A lot of people came up to me and they're like, well, look at all of this money. And I'm going through their transactions. I'm like, this is not your income. And then you take out that 100 grand and you're at negative.
Mhm.
So that's one of the biggest mistakes that people made over this last couple of years, where they're putting their loans into their income.
Yeah. And so there's typically 3 different statements that you really need to have. And I'm going to ask you some questions about them here in a minute. You have your profit and loss statement, and having your bookkeeping accurate is going to be very important. But you also have what's called a balance sheet. And then you have what's called a statement of cash flows. Those 3 statements are what any financial institution is going to require if they're going to look at the profitability of your business and the health of your business. And so the profit and loss gives us what?
Shows how how company is doing. Basically, we're showing all your income and then showing all your expenses and then showing your net profit, what basically you've made, if it's accurate.
Okay. And so give us in plain English, the balance sheet. How important is that balance sheet?
So balance sheet is pretty important. The reason why is because that's where you're going to see all your assets that your company has. Basically, let's say if you're a trucking company, all your trucks, all your materials, they'll be as your asset. And then you'll have your liabilities, which where goes all the loans, anything basically that you're liable for. And that's where you actually see what's the company worth.
Sure.
Because when you're ready to sell your company, let's say you do, you're going to look at the balance sheet and see what's coming with the company, what kind of assets they have, what's in that company. So profit and loss is basically for you to show how much money you make. And then let's say if you go and buy a house or qualify for a house, they'll look at that profit and loss. But when you're ready to sell or you're ready to show somebody your company, like investor or something, right? They want to see what you have in that company.
Okay. And talk to us about the statement of cash flows and how important that is.
Well, so I look at those less, I'll be honest, versus than profit and because profit and loss, that's the one you use for taxes more than balance sheet. But then statement of cash flow shows you actually how your business is doing month to month. That's where you will see, basically you're looking, let's say last month you made this amount of money, and then this month, that's how much cash you're having this month. That's what it shows you, your flow, that cash flow.
So how that cash came in, where it came from, how it flowed through the organization. Because I've been in situations where it is, even in my own business, where I got a great profit and loss. I've got a 25% net income. I go to my balance sheet. I've got all these assets. I've got, the depreciation. I've got the loans. I've got the short-term liabilities, the long-term liabilities. Then I have, the owner's equity. And I'm going, man, this is really good. I'm in really good shape. And then I go to the statement of cash flows and I'm like, man, we made a lot of cash. Oh, crap. A lot of this came from debt, And so you think that a lot of the income, the cash that flowed through your business came from the success of your business. But when you start looking at your statement of cash flows, you realize, wait, we paid off a lot of debt prematurely. And now we're in a cash flow crunch.
So John,
because we drained our cash flow way too quickly.
I'm going to chime in real quick on what you just said, because you read that.
Give me 1 second, Alan.
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
You read that and you interpreted it well, but it brings to mind a question for Lisa, and that is, out of the businesses that you do books for, that let's say they're making less than $1 million, what would you say is the percentage of those business owners that can interpret those core financial statements appropriately?
Great question.
Not that many.
Under
I wouldn't even say the percentage.
under
Normally, honestly, to be honest with you, the companies that I work with, they're like, I don't understand anything. Just please take care of it. Just do everything for me and just make sure everything's right. And as long as I don't have any letters from the IRS, as long as my employees get paid, as long as everything is being done correctly, as long as I can get this loan, get this, get that, we're good.
Mhm. So Alan, let me ask you a question. After being in business for almost 25 years, is that a winning strategy as a business owner to not understand what's going on with those statements?
You have to have basic core knowledge of what they all mean and how they tie together. With that said, there are a lot of business owners, and I include myself in this, in the early years, where maybe cash flow is tight, you're in growth mode, and you try to take that on yourself. You think you're doing yourself a favor. You think you're educating yourself about the intricacies of the business, the financial health of the business. And what happened to me, and what I've seen happen to many others, including my clients and friends that have had different enterprises, is that at the end of the workday, 8 to 10, you've been in your business for 8 to 10 hours. And the only time left that you have to work on those items is after hours, early morning, weekends, the exact times that you should be spending decompressing, resting, spending time with family, enjoying yourself, self-care, hitting the gym, getting outside, things to keep yourself healthy so that you can run the business better. My best scenario, and it took me a very long time to get to this place, but my best scenario is having a decent core understanding, and then meeting, in my case, monthly with the firm that handles our finances to see where we are. And honestly, also, you want to, and this is no slight at Lisa at all. It is no slight at her profession, but I have employed a bookkeeper in the past who just did not do his job. He didn't do it well. There were parts that he didn't do at all. And so the numbers were quite inaccurate. And at the end of the day, it's unfortunate, but you as the business owner, you are the one who has to call them on the carpet. You cannot let the little money get by you. You just can't do it. So yeah, you've got to have a core knowledge, just like you have to have a core knowledge of your own health. You've got to assess how you're feeling during regular days. If you are consistently ill or in a state of pain, that is something that you can certainly do some things about. You can change your habits. You can start working out. You can cut some alcohol, whatever. But you got to go see a doctor. You got to go to the pros, just like any other anything else that requires regular care. And man, there is nothing that requires a closer eye than business finances.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I remember 2006, I started IBNS, and the first year we did 380,000. The next year, 652. The third year, 1,037,000. This is while the economy is collapsing. And I was just trusting my bookkeeper and my accountant, and they did a great job. Did my taxes, everything, did a phenomenal job. And then I joined this mastermind group, and somebody in the mastermind group says, well, is your bookkeeper or your accountant a CPA? And I said, no. And they're like, oh my God, no, dude, you need a CPA. And I'm like, really? I didn't know, So I went out and found a CPA, and I said, hey, Mike, I don't need you no more, and I'm going somewhere with this because this is going to be a big promotion for you, which is why I have my books with you, is I went with this guy for a year, He filed my taxes. And then I think about April or May into the next year, the financial statements were just not making sense. Like literally the balance sheet was not balanced. It was not matching the P&L. I mean, it was just like, I'm like, there's something wrong here. And so I went back to Mike, who's not a CPA, has all the same credentials you have. And I said, dude, do me a favor, just look at this. Just look at this. I said, this doesn't make sense. And he looked at it within 10 minutes. He's like, that's wrong. That's wrong. What did you do? Like he gave you the riot act, right? I'm like, dude, please don't beat me up, man. I mean, he was one of those guys, slick back hair, tail, wore leathers. He looked like he was in the mob, man. He always wore these dark sunglasses. I'm like, is he going to whip out a gun? No, I'm just kidding. But the point is I said, okay, can you look into it? This guy really screwed up my books. Like I missed out on a $75,000 cost of goods sold deduction I could have taken because this guy didn't understand my business. And so the thing is he had only been a CPA his entire life. He had never owned another business outside of being a CPA, And so when I look for a bookkeeper, when I look for somebody that does my taxes, I look for somebody like you who actually has businesses outside of what they do. They understand how a business actually works. And so ultimately I said, hey, Mike, can I come back? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, but my fee's gone up. And I'm like, dude, I'll pay you whatever, right? So he fixed it all. So here's the moral of the story is when you're looking at who you want to use as a bookkeeper, your tax professional, accountant, etc., they don't necessarily have to have all the fancy designations. They need to know what the heck they're doing. And they need to have the experience in business to understand how actual business works so they can understand how the bookkeeping and accounting works. And that's why I've chosen you to handle my books, my taxes, all of that stuff. And so there's a couple of things in preparation for this call. I asked her, I said, is there anything that we can give to the audience? Because this is on our live call, we always have a smaller audience because we allow for Q&A and that sort of thing. But this goes out on a podcast channel, all social networks go out to thousands of people when everything is said and done. And so what I asked Lisa before our call is that, if I'm a small business owner, do you have like a checklist that you can give me that I can give to my audience that they can at least get started with? Here's how your bookkeeping should look. Here's how your system should be set up. And here's how you need to be keeping your records for taxes. And you said you have that.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
So I'll be able to either attach it or I can give it to you. So that way you can attach it.
Okay. So how do people connect with you?
You can they can call us. They
And what's your phone number?
916-259-1402 extension 102.
So say that one more time. We're just going to put it in the chat window here.
916-259-1402 extension 102.
Okay. And then what's the best email?
It's LPORTNOVA@southplacertax.com.
Okay. And so send her an email saying, hey, send me those documents, please. And then I'm going to close with this, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A. One of the, and Alan, I think you were there at Stephanie Scheller's Grow Retreat I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago when the tax guy was a speaker, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing, like, I think you and I, that retreat's like $2,500, $3,000 just to get a ticket and all the airfare in the hotel. So I think you're like $5,000 into it. I walked away with this one tip that was worth 10 times that amount. And it was this, and I didn't realize this. And I verified it with you before our call, is right now the open tax years are 2019, 20, and 21, right? And so when you're doing taxes And so let's just say I was having you do, let's go back and here we are, we're 2020, you're doing my 2019 taxes. And you have all the best understanding that you can of all the deductions that I, as a small business owner, should have in 2019. So you do my taxes, right? And we file them. And there's a lot of people that file an extension. And the importance of an extension is you have an opportunity to have a 3-year look back on your tax returns. And then you can amend that return, right? And so most people will file their, if you're S Corp or C Corp, you got to get that done by March 15th, and LLCs is April 15th, right? And personal returns are April 15th. But the amount of tax returns that you've done for 2019 from April 15th beyond, probably hundreds, if not thousands. And so there's there's about 40,000 pages to the tax code, people. Okay. So no negativity towards tax preparers, but as you start doing all these different returns and all these different companies and all these different scenarios, you're like, I didn't know that code. I didn't know that code. I didn't know I could deduct that. Your acumen grows significantly for that specific tax year, right? Exactly. And so one of the things that, his name was Eric Gunderson. Remember him? He said, one of his best practices, and this is a best practice that they have available here as well, is before the 2022 return gets filed, you want to get a hold of her and say, hey, look over my 2019 tax return, my personal and my business. Because I guarantee you the acumen that you had back in 2020 was here, and now it's here when it comes to that tax year. And she's got a team of people. It's not just her. There's a team of people here. They can go back and look at that 2019 return. Most likely there's a bunch of deductions they didn't know about back then. A lot of people didn't know. I mean, they're still trying to figure out this PPP thing,
PPP,
right? I mean, they're still trying to figure out, well, we originally said could be used for this, and this can be deducted, and Jupiter lined up with Saturn, at that time, and now it's moved in shift orbit, and so everything's changed. Well, we have, as American citizens, business owners, we have a right to go back and do an amended return. And what did Gunderson say, Alan? Most of his clients that do this, they always get an additional refund for that extra year, right? Because they waited right before the horizon set on that year to have somebody different than their original tax person go back and look at that return. And so one of the things I asked you prior to coming to this call is, would you be willing to at least, if anybody on this call contacted you, would you be willing to at least look at it and go, you know what, I might be able to help you?
Of course.
Okay. So that's the one giveaway today is your personal return, your business return. You have until you file your 2022 return to have that reviewed. The best time to work with a tax preparer is between now, the summertime, until
December, I would say.
Yeah, till December, and they can get you in. So highly recommend you get a hold of Lisa and her company here and have them look over your personal and business return. And hopefully, there's probably a 90% chance, don't hold me to it, that there's some deductions that nobody knew about, but now that we're clear, they know about that they can do an amended return. Now, what's the biggest fear? And I'm going to close this because I already know those words just left my mouth and people are like, wait, I don't want to mess with the IRS, right? So I don't even want to open that can of worms because I closed that can of worms back then. What does a business owner have to absolutely do to not worry about an IRS audit?
To keep their books straight, to have their bookkeeping in order, and then have their taxes be verified and correct. Because the first thing, whenever IRS comes to you, they want to pull all your record, especially if you're a business owner. They'll go for your bookkeeping, any sort of. If you don't have like QuickBooks, they'll go for your Excel. They'll need the spreadsheet where you got that information from. And if you don't have that, they'll ask you to get the receipts that you probably are not going to be able to get from like 2019. I'm not too sure if everybody keeps it.
Yeah.
And then they'll look into your tax return. Well, they will get it from your tax return from the current year. And then if they want to do an audit, they'll look back into the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Alan, have you ever experienced a situation where, I mean, you've been in business almost 25 years. You ever gone through an audit?
John, are you trying to jinx me here or what?
Knock on wood.
You know what? I have been extraordinarily lucky. I never have. And, you know, there, but for the grace of God go I, but we're fingers crossed we maintain.
Now, are you afraid of an audit?
I'm not. I'm afraid of the time commitment that it would require because I'm stretched thin as it is. And I really, you know, the idea of sitting down with somebody from the IRS for hours or days at a time, going through sheaths and of paper and electronic records, you know, just makes me want to grab a beer. But at the end of the day, no. I mean, our books are solid now. If you had asked me 2 years ago when we were using the accountant that just butchered everything, my answer would be very, very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the reason I asked Alan the question, everybody, is you don't have to fear the IRS as long as you're doing your books properly. You're having somebody that's a professional doing them, but more importantly, you have your record keeping dialed. Okay. And the one thing I like about working with you is you ensure that people understand the importance of record keeping and how they should do it. So it's not just, hey, give me your stuff and I'll crunch your numbers. It's like, hey, you know, you're constantly saying, hey, we got to do this tax, we got to do these taxes, we got to do this, we got to do this. And because you know when it's time to do those taxes, you know when we're ready. And so as long as you have your record keeping correct, and you want to keep those tax records for how long?
For at least 5 to 7 years. 7 years is the requirement. 5, I would recommend for sure, like 100%.
Yeah. And so keeping those records, keeping it dialed, working with the bookkeeper. One of the things that Gunderson talked about at the Grow Retreat is if you're a business and you have gross receipts or revenue in your business that exceeds $50,000 a year, and you do face an audit, and the IRS finds out that you are not using a bookkeeper, they're going to dig deeper. Okay, that's kind of one of their little checklists. It's like, okay, small business owner, sole prop, S corp, LLC. You did 65,000. Oh, okay. Who do you use for your bookkeeping? Well, I don't. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Now we're going to dig deeper because they already know that you're a small business owner. You're not an expert at bookkeeping. And so this is very, very important. I can't tell you that's the reason we saved this call for the last part of the month, because you can have great sales, marketing, operations systems. You can have all your ducks lined up in a nice 1, 2, 3 order. Everything's running smooth. You fail one of these audits because you don't have your act together. I've seen companies get completely shut down and locked down. Nothing is more panicking than going to your ATM or bank account and putting in the ATM card and having be declined because everything's been levied because somebody somewhere, discovered you made a mistake, and then you now have to prove it. So it's heartbreaking when I run across business owners, or I have business owners that come to me out of a panic going, oh my God, they're after me, and we have to fix it. So, so the importance of accountability, having a checks and balances in place. I know both Alan and I have personally experienced this, where we've had business partners that weren't on the up and up, and we had to learn the hard way. But rest assured, those lessons cost money, and that's just how you got to look at it as a business owner. So with that said, let's does anybody have any questions while we have the expert here? Okay. Anything about bookkeeping, tax, finances, the financial part of your business, and then raise your hand or unmute yourself. First come, first serve.
Wow, we did a great job. We answered it all. Fantastic.
Well, are you familiar with the, it's open source, I guess you'd call it free accounting app, Waves app?
Yeah, we use Wave actually ourselves.
Oh, that's great news. Yeah, I have several different business entities, and QuickBooks is pretty expensive. They make you pay $35 a month or whatever it is for each different business, and Wave seems to do everything I need to do. So you like it well enough? I'll take that as a yes. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So you know that software?
A little, well, I mean, to the certain extent.
Okay.
So
So
I'm always willing to learn. It
all right,
doesn't
so
matter.
can you convert all my stuff to that then?
No.
No. She's like, no. Yeah. So
But we
Great question.
transferred all my stuff from QuickBooks over. It wasn't too difficult.
yeah,
It's actually
well,
pretty easy software to use. I'm happy with
yeah.
it. I've made an investment that, you know how those things are. It could be a dud, but it's in the blockchain world, and
Mhm.
I think it has a very high success of paying off very significantly, like $1 million in 3 years kind of payoff. And so I do want to talk to somebody clever like you, so I can put things in place in the next few years to try to protect as much of that as I can from the tax burden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Who's next? Who else has a question? Now's your time. Personal bookkeeping, personal taxes, business taxes, it's all available right here, right now.
What's your hourly rate?
Well, we charge 70 an hour, but I really don't prefer charging people by hour. I normally give free consultations, and then we see if we're gonna work together. We normally offer like monthly, bi-weekly, quarterly, just because what I think is when you do hourly, if it takes you like 7 hours for some reason, it's like, I don't know, I don't really feel comfortable doing it. I feel more comfortable doing just rates where it's more set and go.
Yeah.
Well, I like hearing you say that, because I have an hourly rate, and I tell my clients it's just a guideline. Because if it takes me forever to do something, I'm not going to charge you an insane amount of money when it wasn't really worth that much in the real world. But on the other hand, sometimes I do things that took a lot of skill and experience, and I do them very quickly, but it's worth a decent amount of money. So yeah, like you, I use my hourly price as just a guideline.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most service-based businesses like mine, like Alan's, yours, Michael, yours, Lisa, even Operation Delegate is it's value-based pricing, right? I got to look at, it's like my old business partner, Don, used to always use this analogy because people would ask him all the time about pricing. And he would say, well, it's like asking me how long is a piece of string? I don't know. Show me the string. Let me measure the string first, and then I can tell you. And it's the same thing here when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting. Every business is different. And revenue is not the indicator, right? I generate more revenue now than I did in a couple of IT businesses that I had, but nowhere near the amount of transactions. And it really comes down to the amount of transactions when it comes to bookkeeping in the IT space. We're generating hundreds of transactions a month that, we had, purchase orders and all this reconciliation. It's like, I was getting a steal, but when it comes to your type of business, it really is it's a customized thing. So the thing I like about what you guys do is you guys do a free consultation first. And you look at the books first to see how many debits and credits and how many transactions are. And really what you want from a really good bookkeeping source is a flat rate, because once you have them, you're going to be with them for a long time. For a long, long time. And you guys meet with your clients on a regular basis.
Yes, so
and
that's
review their
what
financials, right?
one of the things that I prefer is meeting with the client at least once a month.
Yeah.
Just because that way, at least we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And then that way I keep them updated, they keep me updated. I have clients that come to me twice a week.
Yeah.
Just because I do more things for them, but then they're always, it's like
Mhm.
It's all, everything is on top.
And you guys set up entities as well?
Mhm.
Okay, so you do LLCs.
LLC,
S
S corps,
corps,
C
C
corps,
corps.
nonprofits,
Is this specific to a certain state or any state?
any state.
Okay, okay.
But
Fantastic.
obviously, if you live in California,
Mhm.
it's not going to be beneficial to set up. A lot of people actually came across to me and asked me one question. They're like, well, if I live in California and I want to, let's say, but I want to like set up my LLC in Florida because like I want to avoid the tax. But actually that comes out not being the truth, because if you live in California, you're a California resident, you'll still pay the tax in California. California still wants the money.
Mhm.
So a lot of people getting confused with that.
Yeah. So Alan's got a company called Shield IQ, right? And so Alan, you're set up right now, what is it, LLC or an S corp in that?
LLC.
LLC. So can you kind of walk through us the difference and give you both a commercial here. So explain to us Shield IQ real quick. And then when he explains that, let's look at, okay, LLC, S corp, what is he in the right structure? Okay, so go ahead. Explain Shield IQ and what it is that you guys do.
This will actually be a really good exercise because I met with my attorney to form this LLC, and I had a dialogue with her about what we do, how we do it, and how we deliver the product. And without hesitation or reservations, LLC. And so I'll be curious to see what Lisa says. Shield IQ it's an identity theft protection, dark web monitoring, and credit monitoring service. If you're familiar with LifeLock, that's very, very similar to what we have. As an IT business owner, I wanted to be able to offer identity theft protection to our clients. I could not offer anything that was commercially available because, to my shock, all of the big companies have data outside of the United States. And for our healthcare clients, for a lot of our financial services clients, that's a non-starter because you've got to meet certain compliance, like HIPAA and Securities and Exchange Commission and all that. So back in 2019, we hired some developers that had done contractual jobs for the Department of Defense. They had built solutions of this type for very large enterprises before. And we built this platform all based in the US, all infrastructure in the US. It's a made in the USA product. We have a direct to consumer line. If you go to shieldiq.com, you can sign up. Anybody that's on the call, by the way, if you would like a very basic free version of the service that gives you $1 million in identity theft protection, put your contact information in the chat window and I will send you a sign up link. Shield IQ can be subscribed to. It can be used by IT business owners or any other business owners, as an employee benefit. If you have a company and you wish to provide identity theft protection to your employees or to your customers, then we can provide a mechanism for you to do that, either with Shield IQ branding or co-branded or even white label if you want to go that route. So it's a service, it's a SaaS service, it's a platform. It alerts you if anything goes awry. A really great example of how the service works is my business partner Cheryl, who John knows very, very well. Her daughter applied at Starbucks recently, had to take her birth certificate and her driver's license, and her boss, the manager of Starbucks, lost her birth certificate, lost her driver's license. So Cheryl had to, yeah, I know, Bethany. So there was an instance where Cheryl had to get another copy of the birth certificate for something completely different. She went out that morning at 8:30 a.m., got a copy of it. At noon, she sent me a screenshot. The platform, our Shield IQ platform, sent her a notification. Hey, your birth certificate, there's been a copy of Gracie, your dependent's birth certificate, ordered from XYZ Corporation. If this sounds legit to you, great. You can ignore this alert. If this is a surprise, feel free to file a support ticket or give us a call. So it watches not only the dark web, but it watches for suspicious transactions such as that. We have another client who refinanced.
So real quick, let me interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
And so based off of that,
Mhm.
right? LLC or S corp. Now, one missing piece of information. Is Cheryl a partner or not?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so then you guys are multi-member LLC?
Yes.
Okay, so that's different. So they're multi-member LLC, they're taxed as a partnership, correct?
Correct.
1060, okay, so that's actually different. So real quick, I'll just say, because I know we're running out of time too. So the reason why LLCs and S corps, they're pretty much similar.
Mhm.
Two different, there's benefits of having an S corp, and then there's benefits of having LLC. If you're just one single member, right, you just started your small business and you do not want to be liable personally for that company. Let's say you work with another business, that business decides to sue you. Well, they're going to sue your company, but they're not going to go after your personal assets. That's why you would want to set up an LLC. But when it comes down to the tax return and you filing your personal tax return, your LLC is a bolt-on to your tax return, which you still get taxed as a self-employment tax on the federal side. On the state, you're as an LLC, but on the federal, you still like self-employed, like a sole prop. So it's not beneficial for tax purposes. When you get to an S corp, then you can actually put yourself on payroll, you can save on taxes and eliminate that self-employment tax.
Yeah. So the difference between the two, just so we're clear, is LLC provides that personal protection from your personal assets being up for grabs.
Mhm.
Okay, that's why you see a lot of real estate transactions. If I buy apartment buildings or I buy homes that I'm going to rent out, you'll see a bunch of LLCs. Okay, but if I also not only just want the personal tax or the personal protection, but I also want the tax advantages, then an S corp would be the way to go.
Yes.
The thing that I think people don't understand is the tax benefits for an S corp are different than an LLC, right? There are a lot more tax advantages under a S corp than there are an LLC, right? Like we just talked, well, actually, I'll save that for another time, but if you want to evaluate your entity, especially if you have a partnership, okay, you should really talk to Lisa about not only the LLC or the S corp or the C corp, but I will tell you from personal experience, having a buy-sell agreement in place when you have a partner under any entity will save your butt so much headache down the road, because everything is peaches and cream when the business starts. Okay. But once all of a sudden, $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, $2 million a year, when the money starts showing up, things change. Okay. And I'm not going to waste I just know from 2011, Alan knows the story intimately. The only thing that saved my bacon was I had that buy-sell agreement in place with those two ex-business partners. And those two ex-business partners ended up burying themselves because of the buy-sell agreements. And I was able to keep the corporation intact because, correct me if I'm wrong, whether I have an LLC, S corp, C corp, without a buy-sell agreement, any business partner in that structure can say, we need to shut this down. We no longer want to do this. And you know what? They can. And the music stops. Now, if that doesn't put fear into you to get that structure fixed right, I don't know what will. Because
I'm plugging my attorney. I just put a link in the chat window.
Alan's already, you got to get this done.
My attorney,
I get it, man.
My attorney wrote a book called Marriage Without the Sex, and it is about business partnerships and how to get it right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal book.
I got to get that book, dude. So, all right, guys. Hey, great call today. If you want to replay the recording, just go to the YouTube channel. You can go to johnpyron.com. And under complimentary videos, that will be there in the next 5 minutes. Okay. And you can definitely download or watch it over and over again. If you want to copy the recording, send an email to BDM, which stands for Business Development Manager, BDM@johnpyron.com, or Alan@mousecallsonline.com. Okay. So next week is going to be a webinar. Okay. It's our 5th Thursday. It's going to be a crash course in all 4 of these areas. I'm going to have about 5 different speakers. Okay. We might go for a couple of, maybe 2 or even 3 hours, but we're going to deep dive into sales, marketing, operations, systems, bookkeeping, finance. It's going to be a fun fest. And we're going to deep dive getting ready for the summer, because we only have 4 of these 5 Thursdays a year. And so definitely show up with a notepad next week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So go out and make it a great week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your time.